Jack 6-5, Queen of Hearts on the turn, and you've got obviously black aces. Traditionally, this isn't a great card for aces in the sense that at the bike, okay.
Yeah, so I believe this was seven-handed at the time. But anyway, button limps for 20, and I'm in the small blind with black aces.
Okay.
And yeah, so I mean, this game had been playing huge. People were not folding pre. I just go ahead and size up to 110.
Okay.
And the straddle calls and the button calls.
So the button just open limps. You make it 110 out of the small blind with black aces, the straddle calls, and the button calls. So pot's like maybe 340, something like that. And how deep are you guys?
So with the button, who's going to be the main villain in the hand, approximately 2,900. I had him covered at the time.
Okay, so button 2,900 effective. So about 150 big blinds, we'll call it, right? Something like that.
Yeah,
Okay.
Around there.
All right.
So flop comes Jack 6-5 rainbow, one heart. And it was not the Jack of Hearts.
Okay.
I don't exactly remember which one, but yeah.
I'll put up Jack of Clubs, 6 of Hearts, 5 of Diamonds.
Yep.
Okay.
That sounds good.
Yep.
So I think pretty standard, bet about a little over a third here, 125.
Okay.
And both players call.
So straddle calls and the button calls. You bet 125 into 340. I mean, it's not that connected. Okay. Sometimes in these games you could even size up to 150, 175, or even sometimes 200. Obviously the theory is that multiway, you can bet smaller, but okay. I mean, I'm fine with it. Looks like, so 375 on the flop. Looks like the pot's now like about 715.
Yep. So right around there. And so like I said, this is a big game for me, and I definitely let the stakes kind of affect my play, which I was not supposed to do. But anyway, the turn comes the Queen of Hearts, so bringing that backdoor flush draw.
And you have black aces.
Again, black aces.
Right. Okay. So Jack 6-5, Queen of Hearts on the turn, and you've got obviously black aces. Even before you tell me what you're going to do here, because again, I mean, the ranges could be obviously wide. I mean, the button has open limp called, right? I mean, obviously there could be some straight draws out here, but traditionally this isn't a great card for aces in the sense that what I mean by, I'm not saying that I'm scared of Queen Jack, but in this specific scenario where it's multi-way, it's unfortunate that a blank high card comes. I mean, it's not quite as bad as like a king coming, but you're going to see like the middle guy probably have to fold off Jack X, as opposed to if the turn was like a paired the 5 or a deuce or something like that,
Yeah, I agree. So this was kind of an unfamiliar situation for me just because getting called in two spots, obviously, like you always preach on here, you got to be super careful in these multi-way scenarios. Mm-hmm. And I think I made a mistake here, and I actually check.
I mean, I don't necessarily think it's a mistake. It's tough, again, like in theory, to sort of sim this spot. It's almost impossible. You have to stick it. I mean, this is where some of the people go wrong. Like they're like, well, I mean, I had an email earlier from someone. I was asking them about Monk or Solver because he was asking me about these things. And I said, I'm not 100% sure that some of the new features in a lot of these solvers is like you can put in a pre-flop range that's not necessarily optimal, but what's the point of doing that if the people aren't going to play optimal anyways post? If you give a guy 7-8 offsuit and then you're trying to get outputs for what is GTO against that and assume that that guy's going to play anywhere close to optimal post if he's limp calling with 7-8 off. So this is obviously where I think my forte comes obviously into play. Yes, you do lose to some Queen Jack now, and betting out again here on the turn is strong. But with that being said, though, I think you can continue to take a small sizing on the turn, because if you had bet with a hand like ace king, ace 10, and structured it correctly with like a backdoor, like ace king suited, ace 10 suited, or even like, ace 4 suited or ace 3 suited or something like that, or Broadway suited hands like a king 10, 9-10 suited, like you're going to continue to barrel this card. It's a disconnected over card. So I would probably continue to barrel here as well. You don't have to bet that much. You could go 250, 275, something like that. I mean, I don't necessarily know if I would classify it as a mistake by checking, but okay, so you check.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. So, and this is, yeah, I mean, so the hand is basically going to be all, about this turn scenario, how I play it. So straddle checks, and then the button thinks for a second, and then throws out a 1K chip. And it was weird. He like said something to the dealer. I thought is, how people will just throw out a bigger size chip and then like verbalize their bet, but it was with the plexiglass. I couldn't hear what he said, but I confirmed it with the dealer, and the bet was 1,000.
so he bets 1,000 into 715, and he basically like after the thousands, because he started with 2,900, he has what like 800 left basically, right? Excuse me.
No,
If he
no,
started with
no. I'll have
29, right?
about,
He's 18, maybe 1,700 left, right?
yeah, I think it was somewhere between 16 and 1,700, somewhere around there.
So I'm just trying to do the math out here in the sense of, you don't want to get into a situation where, well, you need to figure out if the situation is raise all in or fold, but I don't think it's quite like that here. If you call, the pot will be 27 and the dude has, like I said, 1,700 left. So, I mean, they're still like about 2/3 effective. So, it's not necessarily just a jam or fold scenario. I mean, you calling here is going to get the straddle out. I mean, the only thing that could be said, but I just don't think it's going to happen, is if you were to call this overbet and then the straddle somehow like check jammed all in and then the other guy got it all in, you could just fold. I don't think that's going to happen because I don't think the straddle is just naturally checking over when you check to him on the turn. But that is one way to sort of protect your kind of stack. But I mean, I would call. I mean, I mean, I just, I mean, well, I mean, the guy, yeah, 27, let's see, it's 20, yeah, 27, he's got 1,700 left. I mean, people are in the chat are saying, well, you could jam two and, again, yeah, I mean, it's a pretty scary, I mean, when you jam here, you basically never have bluffs, and the pot would be, 44, 1,700 for the guy to call. On the flip side of this, of course, though, too, is that if he's making some sort of two-way semi-bluff hand, like a huge 15-out draw, and if you just call, he just gives up on the river, and you've basically given him a reverse free card, whereas he's pot stuck into the hand now. So, in retrospect here from out of position, I could also see jamming. I'm just saying that the threshold does not force you into a jam or fold scenario. I would at least call. How about that? If you want to jam, it looks like that might be fine too. If you think he's pulling one of those, huge draws. But I mean, I can't see folding here. What kind of, here's the thing, like, I don't see a slow player here on the flop. Like if they were to flop like fives or sixes, if they were to slow play flop by like over calling a bet and a call, suddenly just go 1.5x if the guy's a slow player. So, if you sort of take that out, you think you can assume that he's going to raise with Jack here pre-flop too. And 5-6 off, he's going to slow play that hand, and I just don't buy it. So really, he's representing Queen Jack here, or sort of a two-way draw type of hand. Now, how many combos of Queen Jack are there if we take all the Queen Jack offs in there too? I mean, there's 3 of each card left, so there's 9 combos. So, I mean, there are combos out there, and then you'd have to sort of look at, I would say the two pair, the big draw types of hands. But I mean, I would have to really, really know the player to just say, oh, I'm going to fold the aces here to a 1.5x, pot size bet.
Yeah, yeah. So I definitely agree with all the stuff you're saying here. And I think one thing that, I was just thinking about in hand is having black aces. I obviously unblocked that backdoor hard draw that, could be in there, in addition to obviously unblocking any of the combo draws, the straight draw, flush draw type stuff. And, I was just thinking, I'd only sat down at this game for about 45 minutes, didn't have any history with this player. Wasn't sure if he was, ever, like you said, ever slow playing a flop set of fives or sixes here, especially, multi-way, it's pretty uncommon to see that.
Well, I mean, it's.
And yeah,
I
not a
mean,
lot of
I
flop
would
sixes.
see it. I just don't expect a 1.5x bet here on the turn. People fall into certain patterns. So if there was a guy that was going to overcall as a slow play, I just wouldn't expect the 1.5x. Like I said, and we're not going to see this with bottom two. So I just think that this is almost like it's just queen jack or a big draw. What did you end up doing?
Yeah, so in game, I was kind of frozen. I wasn't really sure what to do, and I just realized, hey, I'm never folding this hand. And then if I call and it's a blank river and he jams, I don't see myself getting away from it. So I guess with all the draws out there, I'm just gonna go ahead and get it in. So I jam, straddle folds, and it gets back to him, and he doesn't snap call, which I felt good about at the time.
Uh huh.
He asks the dealer for a count, counts all my stuff out. As soon as the dealer
I mean,
confirms it that
you
I had
should
him
be good here
covered,
then, right? I mean, if he's asking
yeah,
for a
yeah. So
count,
like, yeah, at that point I'm like, oh, he's got a draw and he's just gonna try to decide if he's priced in. But as soon as she counts out my stack and sees that I have him covered, then he's like, oh, okay, I call, and then he has queen jack, so and he holds.
wow, he tank called. Wow, button tank calls, has queen jack. I mean, that is what it is, man. I mean, here's the thing, like, it's 150 big blinds effective. I know it's not a 3-bet pot, but the pot's already bloated. This is what I try to tell people, especially come on new to the site. Like, you can't look at it in a scenario where it's like, oh, I stacked off with one pair, 150 big blinds in a single raise pot. Live equivalencies of like sort of SPR and stack sizes, it gets real bloated really quick, as you can see, because you're making it 5.5x pre, and then and you get two calls, and then you're following up with a bet and two calls. So I mean, really, I'm looking at it like on the turn, the guy has like maybe three pot size bets left or whatever it is. That's just a weird one, but I don't think you did anything wrong. To be perfectly honest with you, I wouldn't really beat yourself up. I mean, most of the time, I'm going to bet turn, basically to maximize in these games. But now, if you bet turn and a guy raises you like crazy, could you make a case for possibly bet folding? Sure, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that's not necessarily why we bet. We're not betting all to get information, about our hand. So that's kind of, where I go with it from there. But I appreciate the call. Thank you very much.